Nobody saw this coming. Not the analysts, not the NBA insiders, not the fan bases that had spent 2 years assuming they knew exactly how this story would end. Not even the people closest to the situation, who had built their entire framework around a single assumption that turned out to be completely wrong. The assumption was simple. LeBron James leaves the Lakers, and Bronny James goes with him. Wherever the father goes, the son follows. Whatever team wins the LeBron sweepstakes gets the package deal. The father-son story that started in Los Angeles continues somewhere else. Same jersey, different city, same fairy tale. That is not what happened. On June 30th, 2026, LeBron James informed the Los Angeles Lakers that he would be playing elsewhere in the 2026-27 season. 8 years in Los Angeles, 1 championship, the all-time scoring record, 2 seasons as teammates with his son, and then gone. Off to the next chapter. Off to the teams circling him with maximum contract offers and championship promises and whatever else it takes to land the greatest player of his generation for what everyone understands will be his final season. And Bronny James stayed. Not temporarily, not in a holding pattern, waiting for a trade to materialize. The Lakers guaranteed his $2.3 million contract for the 2026-27 season before LeBron even announced he was leaving. And then, days after LeBron's departure became official, The Athletic's Dan Weick dropped the report that ended the assumption entirely. League sources, granted anonymity to discuss front office strategies, told Wookie that assumptions that the father and son staying linked going forward are false. False. Not unlikely, not complicated. False. LeBron's departure from the Lakers is not viewed as anything related to Bronny's standing with the team. The younger James is well liked in the locker room. He is a respected worker. He has improved greatly in his 2 years with the organization. He attended the Lakers' Las Vegas Summer League win. He is a part of their veteran minicamp. He might be too good for the G League as he heads into his 3rd professional season. The story that everyone thought they were watching just changed completely, and Bronny James did not expect this. Neither did anyone else. But here is the thing about unexpected stories. They are usually the most important ones. Because the expected story, Bronny following LeBron to Cleveland, or Philadelphia, or Golden State, continuing the fairy tale under a different set of lights, would have answered nothing. It would have extended the question rather than forcing it. Another season with his father's gravitational pull shielding him from the evaluation that every professional athlete eventually faces. The unexpected story forces the question immediately. Who is Bronny James when nobody is watching LeBron? To answer that question honestly, you have to go back to the beginning, not the draft, not the first game they shared together, the very beginning, the moment that almost ended everything before it started. July 24th, 2023. Bronny James was 19 years old. He was in a USC practice when he collapsed. Cardiac arrest, one of the most terrifying words in medicine, in sports, in any context. A cardiac arrest at 19 years old. A young man whose father had spent 2 decades telling the world his dream was to share an NBA floor with his son, lying on a practice court in Los Angeles while paramedics worked to save his life. He survived. He came back. He played at USC for a single season. The numbers were modest, 4.8 points and 2.8 rebounds per game in 25 games. Nobody pretending to do an honest draft evaluation ranked him as a second-round talent based on what happened on the floor in Los Angeles. But the Lakers used the 55th pick on him in June 2024. And the basketball world understood exactly what was happening. LeBron had said it publicly and directly more than once. His last year would be played with his son. Wherever Bronny was drafted, that was where he would be. He would take a discount. He would do whatever it took to play with his son for 1 year. The Lakers gave them both exactly that. And in October 2024, LeBron and Bronny James became the first father and son to play on the same NBA team in the history of the league. It was genuine. It was beautiful. And whatever you thought about the basketball merits of the decision, the image of them on the floor together was something the sport had never produced before. But what happened on that floor around the image is the part of the story that matters now. Bronny's first season was what anyone paying honest attention expected. He played in 21 NBA games. He averaged 2.8 points per game. He shot 31% from 3. He spent the majority of his professional minutes with the South Bay Lakers in the G League, which is where young players who need development go to get real minutes in a competitive environment without the pressure of NBA rotations and playoff implications. He was learning. He was not ready. And the people who had watched his college season honestly knew that 2 or 3 years of development was the realistic timeline, not the immediate leap to a starting role that some of the more emotional coverage implied. His second season told a different and more interesting story. He played 42 games with the Lakers, 1 start. He averaged 2.9 points per game, with shooting splits of 40.9% from the field, 38.6% from 3, and 85.7% from the free throw line. Small numbers, but significantly improved efficiency. The three-point shooting that had been his primary calling card, going back to USC, was starting to show up at a real clip in NBA conditions. And then, when the Lakers got to the playoffs and the injury situation got complicated, Bronny James did something that nobody had given him sufficient credit for. Game 3 of the first-round series against the Houston Rockets. Luka Doncic was injured. Austin Reeves was dealing with his own situation. The Lakers needed bodies. J.J. Redick, the first-year head coach, who had spent the entire season speaking carefully and diplomatically about Bronny's development, said something before the playoffs started that landed differently than anyone expected. He said the Lakers would need Bronny down the stretch. Not as a courtesy comment, not as a media management answer designed to make the situation feel normal. He said it as a genuine basketball assessment of what his roster looked like and what it needed. And in Game 3 against Houston, Bronny delivered the most significant individual moment of his professional career. He outscored the entire Houston Rockets bench, the entire bench, of an NBA team, in a playoff game. Bronny James, the player Rob Parker had publicly said should retire, the player whose presence on the roster had been analyzed and debated and questioned for 2 solid years, outscored every reserve the Houston Rockets put on the floor in a first-round playoff game. He also played meaningful minutes across the series, averaging 7.2 points per game over 6 games in the playoffs, a significant jump from his regular season average. He showed the defensive positioning and basketball IQ that scouts had identified as his most transferable NBA skills from the beginning. The offense was not spectacular, but it was real, and the floor spacing his three-point shooting provided, even in limited minutes, was the kind of contribution that wins in professional basketball without requiring a player to be the star. The G League numbers that nobody talks about enough tell an even cleaner story. In 14 games with South Bay during the 2025-26 season, Bronny averaged 15.6 points per game on 56.4% shooting from the field and 45.6% from three-point range. Those are not numbers you produce accidentally. Those are not numbers that belong to a player who is simply occupying a roster spot because of his last name. Those are numbers that say clearly, when this player gets real minutes against competition he is ready for, he produces at a level that deserves more NBA opportunities. The question the entire basketball world has been dancing around for 2 years is simple. The G League numbers are excellent. The NBA numbers are modest. The gap between those two realities is where Bronny's future lives or dies. And the Lakers have just decided, publicly, through their contract decision and through the sources who spoke to Dan Woik, that they believe the gap is closable, that the development they have seen over 2 years justifies keeping him on the roster, independent of whether his father is in the building. That Bronny James has outgrown the G League, and the next step in his evolution as a professional basketball player happens in the NBA. With the Lakers, without LeBron. Now let's talk about what that actually means for his life. Because the basketball question and the human question are inseparable here. Bronny James has never played in the NBA without his father. Not one game. Every practice he has attended as a Laker, LeBron was somewhere in the building. Every game he has played, LeBron was either on the floor with him or on the bench next to him. The locker room, the coaching conversations, the team culture, the media environment, every single element of his professional experience has been shaped by his father's presence. That is now gone, and the reaction to that reality has been revealing. Rob Parker, the Fox Sports radio analyst, who has been the most consistent and the most brutal voice of skepticism about Bronny's NBA career, said he should retire, that the jig is up, that without LeBron in the building, the honest assessment of Bronny James as an NBA player is that he does not have a path forward. Parker is not the only one thinking it, he is the only one saying it out loud with that level of directness. The softer version of the same argument appears in more careful language across virtually every mainstream analysis of the situation. Questions about whether he can earn minutes independent of his father's leverage. Questions about whether the 2.9-point average represents his ceiling or his floor. Questions about whether a 42-game season with 9 minutes per night is a developmental success story or evidence of a player who has reached the upper boundary of what his talent can deliver in the NBA. The Lakers have answered those questions with a contract guarantee and a decision to keep him. That is their vote. That is Rob Pelinka and J.J. Redick and the organization saying collectively that what they see in the gym every day is worth the investment. But the NBA does not run on organizational opinions, it runs on production, on winning, on the ruthless meritocracy that eventually strips away every advantage except the one you earn yourself. Bronny James has exactly one season, the 2026-27 campaign, to prove that the guarantee was correct. The team option for 2027-28 exists on paper, but team options in the NBA are exercises based entirely on whether a player has demonstrated enough value to justify the investment. If Bronny plays the 2026-27 season the way he played in 2025-26, averaging 2.9 points in 9 minutes per game, the option is gone, and so is the NBA career. But here is what makes the situation different from the doomsday scenario Parker describes. The landscape around Bronny is fundamentally changed in ways that actually favor his development. Without LeBron, the spotlight moves. The media attention that followed every Bronny interaction, every Bronny minute, every Bronny shot attempt, was almost entirely a function of his father's presence on the same team. The son of the greatest player alive, playing alongside his father. That story generated scrutiny that no player averaging 9 minutes per game should ever have to absorb. Next season, without LeBron, Bronny James is a 21-year-old developmental guard on the Los Angeles Lakers in his third professional year. The story is infinitely smaller, the pressure is infinitely lower. The ability to develop in relative quiet, to take the G League efficiency and translate it to NBA minutes without a microscope analyzing every possession, is something he has never had. That might be the best thing that ever happened to his career. The Luka Doncic situation adds another layer. With Doncic as the unquestioned number one, the offensive system does not run through anyone else at any point, which means Bronny's role, floor spacing, defensive contributions, pick-and-roll mobility, catch-and-shoot opportunities, can develop naturally without the expectation that he will ever need to be more than what the team needs him to be in those specific moments. The shooting numbers from year 2 are the foundation. 38.6% from 3 in NBA games is a real, legitimate number for a guard his size. If that holds and improves in year 3, if the defensive reads that JJ Redick has praised continue to sharpen, if the G League efficiency, 56% from the field, 45% from 3, begins to translate more consistently to NBA minutes, then the conversation around Bronny James changes. Not to superstar, not to franchise cornerstone, but to legitimate NBA rotation player, a guy who earns his minutes on his own merit, a guy who no longer needs the LeBron explanation attached to every sentence about why he is on the roster. That is the realistic ceiling for the 2026-27 season, and reaching it would be the most important basketball accomplishment of Bronny James's life. Because here is the thing that Rob Parker misses in his retirement argument. The jig being up is not the same as the opportunity being gone. Parker is correct that the specific reason Bronny was drafted, the father-son package deal, LeBron's leverage, the organizational decision to give the greatest player in franchise history everything he asked for, is no longer in place. That version of the story is over, but a 21-year-old with a fully guaranteed NBA contract, improved efficiency numbers across 2 seasons, legitimate G League production, the trust of his head coach, and the goodwill of a locker room that according to multiple sources genuinely likes having him around. That player has something real, not because of who his father is, because of what 2 years of professional development inside one of the most scrutinized environments in American sports has produced. The cardiac arrest at 19, the SC season that raised questions, the draft night where the 55th pick felt entirely predetermined, the G League trips, the 9-minute nights, the 1 start, the playoff game where he outscored the entire Houston Rockets bench, and now the moment where LeBron walks out of the building and the Lakers look at Bronny James and say, "We want you to stay. Not because of your father, because of you." Bronny James did not expect this. Nobody expected this, but it is exactly the unexpected thing that gives his story its first real chance to become something independent and permanent. Not the son of LeBron James. Not the player who was there because his father demanded it. Not the symbol of nepotism or legacy or the complicated intersection of family and sport. Just a basketball player, on a roster, in his third professional season, with something to prove and nobody to hide behind. The NBA has been waiting for this version of the story since the night his name was called at the 2024 draft. It starts in October, and for the first time in his professional life, Bronny James has to answer the question on his own.